last week of the LCS. They didn't get the tiebreaker they were looking for, lost that fight for the second place. And sadly for G2 Esports, it's been a very rough couple of weeks. Now, we get to see if the last couple of weeks of scrims have actually done a lot for the team. Splyce, I think, started off pretty rough yesterday, but towards the end of the series started looking better, especially in late game team fights with Copy, and that was kind of the big story. This pick and ban phase, we already get quite a lot of changes. Splyce, they were on red side 3 games yesterday, and they banned only bot laners. 2 AD carries and Rakan support got removed every time. Now they're focusing around mid and top.
Not surprising to see that they aren't as worried about Hjarnan as they were about the Hansam and Mickey X duo, notoriously strong in lane, but the Swain ban is interesting.
Yeah.
Rise, standard, I think, to take away from Perks, a very powerful pick in the meta, but we have to assume Splyce knows something about the G2 goals that we do not.
The moment I see the Swain ban, I'm like, okay, Wonder can play Swain top against one of the blind pick tanks from Odamne. That could be a very tough lane for Splyce to deal with, and they maybe do not want to give Wonder a free carry on top side, but this is what I like. Because, Drakers, we talked about, with Didan Kench, it's a G2 thing, they love it, but it means that he can't actually do what he's good at, which is playmaking and engaging. Now with the Rakan, we get Reddit back on a playmaker.
An interesting, Splyce are willing to take the Xayah without the Rakan as a duo, limiting the power of both picks to a certain degree, at least in the laning phase. Surprised to see it, but Kabi, of course, a very good Xayah player, and it does not stop the Rakan from being an incredible playmaker.
No, that's true. Like, but this draft is actually pretty crazy because the Xayah pick here, Uzi and the LPL has shown that you can grab Xayah without Rakan and it's still really, really strong. So they can take it away to deny the Xayah-Rakan combination, and then they get Skana, which is by many teams considered the best jungle pick just overall to build any sort of comp around. Because you can get him in teamfight comps, you can get him in pick comps, like you can get him in early game comps because he can actually skirmish pretty well. So Skana is just like super easy to fit into any draft. Jankos, on the other hand, he's on a Zac now. It's not about the early game, it's all about the late game.
Interesting to see that priority change. I mean, the Skarner kind of expected, but the Zac has been a pick that's been rising in priority since we saw Broxah really pull it out in the finals. That's where I feel like it really started to make its impact known, especially yesterday in the hands of Xerxes. Massive CS deficits early on, but was just such a huge force for the team in the mid to late game to keep the fights going, to keep the fights turning in the favor of Splyce. And now as we enter the second ban phase, we have to wonder what's the priority going to be. G2 have gotten the Urgot.
Yeah.
It is still by nature a flex pick.
Of course.
And we don't know where it's going to go yet.
I mean, we should assume they can play it in both lanes, as you just highlighted right there, and maybe the Swain ban, if they were trying to take Wonder off a potential carry, didn't really work if he can just grab the Urgot for himself. We are expecting Odamne to play a tank. It worked yesterday for the team. It was a big change compared to the quarterfinal where he struggled on some of the different like split pushers on top side. The Alistar as well I like, because Rakan needs to be very careful in lane. Like if you try and go in as Rakan and you get instant CC'd by Alistar, you most likely get bursted down in no time. So I think the Splyce bot lane, it's a smart thing in the pick and ban phase. I'm just really looking at the Zac from Jankos, because he's been probably the most coin flip jungler we've had all split long. Like one game it's the First Blood King 4-0 and we're like, Jankos is back, and the next game he dies 4 times in a row before we even get past 10 minutes. Zac, he doesn't need to do anything on in the early game. He can get to level 6 first.
And historically, it is a good pick for Jankos. Last time he played it was in the spring finals against Fnatic. He's 10-4 overall in his EU LCS career on the pick. So it is the definition of a comfort pick for Jankos. It does usually look good in his hand. So if you're G2, kind of makes sense to start with something that has been successful in the past. But with LeBlanc and Aurelia banned out, as well as the Varus, G2's carry options are limited, and Splyce going to get that final counter pick.
Yeah, Splyce, do you just want to grab your blind pick top lane here, whatever tank you want, and then wait so Nisqy can counterpick Perks? That is something that would make a lot of sense in the pick and ban phase, unless they feel like they should pick forward on the last to see if he wants to play carry on top side. But it is, as we just mentioned, a dog champion, the blind pick Maokai.
And Odamne doing what it takes to win right now, not playing the flashy champions, knowing that he can support the team with the tank, and the sheer amount of CC right now on this Splyce lineup. It's pretty terrifying. Now the Ezreal would be a safe pick, the Jhin much less safe, but would offer a little bit more support if the G2 comp wants to engage, wants to get aggressive. Hjarnan, an okay Ezreal player, but not the likes of Upset, one of the few Ezreal players we've seen really pop off on this champion. Have to wonder if Hjarnan can do the same thing here up against Kabi after Kabi's excellent performance yesterday.
Yeah, I mean, everything so far screams leave the bot lane on its own after they didn't get the Xayah-Rakan combination. play around the Urgot instead. Either will go mid or top, and that's kind of where you can look for kills, especially against the Maokai. I'm expecting Urgot top lane at this point for Wonder. And with the Corki pick, it should definitely be Urgot top lane on the side. And you also get a bit of consistent damage now with Corki coming in.
Will we see the Cassio coming out from Niski?
Or the Kassadin.
Kassadin, also an option. Old school counter pick. Overall, of course, Corki's autos turning into magic damage. Pretty awkward against the Kassadin passive, reducing magic damage. But Splyce really taking their time here. Do they want that scaling pick in the mid lane, or do they want something that can impact the game just a little bit earlier? And the Zoe coming in for Niski. Comfort picks coming out for Splyce.
I mean, he was a Zoe one trick during the split. It was like 10 games of Zoe and then 1 game of 5 to 6 other champions. And now, sadly, the graphic proves me wrong instantly. It was 8 games of Zoe. Thanks, stats team. Just killing my numbers right there.
You can BS like 9 times out of 10, but the 10th time they're gonna have that graphic.
They had it ready.
No, they're gonna call you out.
He was a Zoe one trick. Look at that KDA. I know we normally shouldn't highlight that too much, but 14.4 in 8 games.
Even in the games where Splyce were struggling, Niski was clearly destroying people, roaming, taking out people in those just ridiculous exchanges where he connects the Sleepy Trouble Bubble and makes everything happen. But we've seen a lot from Splyce. Division on the opposite side, I think G2 is where we have so many questions, because we have this speculation about what form G2 will be in. We look back at Funnel, we look at some of their good games in the second half of the season, and the reality is we don't know what level of G2 to expect going into this series.
It's very true, but I also kind of feel like we get a little bit biased based on the name of the organization, because G2 Esports, they have to fight for the world's seed here. They have to be one of the best teams in Europe just based on the organization name, ignoring the players. So we actually all want G2 to show up in this series, but at the same time, the Splyce Miracle Run, first time it could happen in Europe, that you go as the last seed in the gauntlet and you make it all the way to Worlds, is a fantastic story. And we know there are strong BO5 teams. So I'm expecting this game to actually be super, super competitive between the two teams. And I think yesterday was a bit of a warm-up for Splyce, and they got better and better and better. Time to show today that they actually are now even stronger and can beat G2.
This is the difficult thing about the gauntlet. Played a best of 5 yesterday, all 5 games. Today, Splyce will try again as they go toe-to-toe with G2 Esports in Game 1. Final round. The raid boss waiting for that 3rd seed is Schalke. The victor of today will play them tomorrow. But you have a potential 5 games in front of you before you can get there for both of these lineups. So focus in on the Rift.
And I really want to follow Xerxes in the early game on Skarner here, because when you're against a Zac, you're not expecting a whole lot of fight coming out of the other jungler. So you have a lot of free time on Xerxes' side to actually focus on getting, controlling the river. You can look for even an early gank on your side. Oh, let's see on top side. Where did it snuck in behind Oroamne?
Okay, look for the knockup. Oh, will get caught out. Wonder what ability is he going to start with. Not going for anything too aggressive here. Disdain comes out and is going to back up. Purge, rather.
So nice little level 1 trick, just like sneak in behind there for Wadid, and Wonder is going to stop a recall.
Oh, it's so obnoxious.
Oh, it's starting, isn't it?
I feel like Odoamne has to be willing to give up the TP early on, because otherwise you're not going to be able to lane against this Urgot.
One of the last weeks of regular season, we had G2 Esports against Splyce. And G2, they played Jarvan top lane with Talia jungle for Jankos. Do you remember that game? They camped Odoamne like 3-4 times in the early game. They killed him every single time. He had to walk back to lane multiple times.
Oh, that was the game where you said he bought boots just to run in and die faster.
Exactly, only with boots. Now, when I looked at this matchup, and I said this yesterday in PGL, I felt like this matchup was better suited for G2 against Splyce than, let's say, G2 against Misfits, because Odoamne is a fairly easy target in the early game. Like, he wants to trade top side. He's not exactly the guy who just sits super passive. And he doesn't always get help from his own jungler in case he is getting ganked. So I feel like this matchup actually allows G2 to play to top side a lot more, which is exactly what they want as a team, and also why they're drafting Ezreal on bottom side for Yanan. We could actually see Jankos and Wonder work together and beat the duo that brings G2 to the second round, or next round.
Could also potentially go for the mid lane pre-level 6 on that Zoe. Don't see it happening quite as much. Both mid laners seem potentially just content to farm up. But I like the Ezreal paired with a playmaking support. We've seen it from so many teams this season, Deficio. Ezreal, you can leave him in lane on his own. He's going to be fine. He's not going to die. That frees up players like Wadid to roam. And you're already seeing a little bit of that right now. To using the lane pressure to his advantage to roam in and place down a bit of early vision to track Xerxes. Yeah,
I think a lot of people have kind of forgotten what Wadid used to be before he actually joined G2, where he was a huge playmaker. Like the Alistar was a famous pick for him. The Zyra Khan combination with him and Yana was very good. because he was such an aggressive player on Recon. We mentioned how Xerxes can fight in the river very easily, and he is getting full control topside. Scuttle is his bot side. He grabs it as well, and Jankos on the Zac, like, you're a useless blob. Like, you're not going to do anything.
Sadly, and they know it, at least. That's the good news. G2 don't try to force anything there. They just accept defeat. Don't even try to contest on the smite. See the Alistar leaving. They know they don't have the advantage early game, but they know that's not why they picked the Zac. We will wait for a few more levels before we start to set any kind of larger expectations for Jankos.
Yeah, and I think Zac is actually a super, super good pick. And it was a bit underrated, especially in Europe, until I feel like we got to see it in the LCK finals, when it kind of surprisingly got locked in very early, even blind in some of the drafts by Griffin. And it was super, super good as long as you do not fall behind the first couple of levels. Because you are one of the best gankers later. You are one of the best scaling junglers, because your teamfighting presence is fantastic. Bot side, a little bit of a trade.
He gets to pull back, though. Probably not able to immediately follow up on the CC from Kasing. And I think it's good that we talk about Xerxes versus Jankos, because this is a jungle matchup yesterday where Xerxes was so useful for Splyce. He was everywhere. And you can see the CSD. That's him sacrificing himself. Maxler, yes, absolutely destroyed him in farm. But the jungle proximity in the K+A, Xerxes was mitigating so many of the team's early laning weaknesses by just being everywhere on the map.
Yeah, Maxler was on carry junglers most of the time, trying to see if he could actually have more of an impact than Xerxes. But obviously the Splyce early game, it wasn't fantastic yesterday, but at the same time, they managed to win lanes we didn't expect them to win. They actually won the bot lane quite often with the Varus and Tahm Kench combo on their side to shut down the Misfits early game, and that was a key thing, but then the rest of the team could still struggle either mid or top.
And now I have to see if G2 can exploit that. Maybe Jankos can put some attention top. Maybe G2 continue the
will.
trend that Misfits started yesterday where they snowball. But the difference today, Deficio, is we're seeing much more early game jungle focus from Xerxes in the form of this Skarner. And Odoamne may not have a lot of damage, but he does have the point-and-click CC to lock down Wonder if Wonder's going to get cocky here and try to trade into the wave.
Yeah.
Predator comes out. It just doesn't look like it's going to happen. They see the Predator used, though, so at least a little bit of comfort bot for Wonder on the top side.
I feel like Odoamne is basically calling Xerxes top lane to say, hey, I'm going to push out this wave. If the enemy jungler's here, I'm going to struggle. Please be on top side, and then we can actually take a 2v2. Nothing happened, though. Wonder just walks away from it. But I also like, again, with Skarner Zac, like, I look at a lot of picks the further we get into a season, and there are certain picks that are scrim champions, and then there are certain picks that are stage champions. And to me, Zac is not a scrim champion, because there's too many fights in the early game. But he's a stage champion, because games are slower. People do less in the early game. So he gets past these couple of levels here, gets to the point where he can be an insane ganker, and then he will suddenly take over the game. And the same thing for Skarner. Oh, let's see what happens. Now he's fighting.
Just connect. The TP's now coming in. Xerxes has to choose where he wants to go. But Niski's there, level 6. Kasing is there as well, so TP's just being burned. Wonder might actually be the one who's in trouble. Xerxes now running in. Niski can't throw the Sleepy Trouble Bubble. Should go through the wall in just a few moments. Gonna try to connect it. Good dodge from Wonder. Now backing off the exchange.
Wonder got baited right there by his own team. They were calling for the fight in the river. Didn't realize that Kasing and the rest of Splyce had already moved from the mid lane to simply stop them from actually killing Xerxes. They lose another Rift Scuttler. It's the third one now. They've lost over to the Skarner. And we will notice that in the experience difference. But anyway, not the end of the world for Jankos. Specifically, he just wants to get his level 6. And Xerxes, same thing for him. I think once he hits 6, first gank on his side. They can go bot lane, you can kill with it 100%. Mid lane, it's going to be a little bit harder to actually get to perks, and he can stand pretty close to his turret.
I mean, there's also a flashless Urgot when you have a Maokai top lane. When Niski is currently pushing perks in, things are going pretty well for Splyce in the early game, and I'd say this is a bit of a change from what we saw yesterday. They look much more comfortable, and it also feels like they're setting themselves up for more early game success.
It's true, but do you remember start of the split when G2 would win every early game while playing Funnel?
I do remember that, yes.
That G2 is long gone.
It's very true.
We haven't seen them dominate in the early game for so long here in this split, and they kind of lost that as one of their main strengths. Because when they play against Fnatic in the spring final, it was win early game, be ahead at 25 minutes, and then obviously lose late game team fights. But that G2, they had aggressive early jungling, and they would win lanes. We haven't seen that. Wonder, he has no flash. You called the Drakus.
Pulling him back, has the ulti. The chain CC comes in. That is going to be ulti over the wall. And now it's an easy first blood picked up. The flash is gone, and that means Wonder's gone too. Splyce with a clean execution.
There we go, and that's why we like the Skarner. You guarantee a kill level 6, especially against a target without flash. So Xerxes done his job here in the early game, getting all the river control and the first kill on top side. Nice early game so far.
Shutting down the Urgot, always good news. You know, this is a champion that can take over these tank matchups with the percentage health damage that he has on the shotgun legs, on the Echoing Flames, but not going to happen today. We'll still be able to farm comfortably in the 1v1, but always kind of has to be scared of Xerxes coming back to the top lane to just rinse and repeat.
I was kind of expecting now would be the time where Jankos would try and go top lane and they could kill Odo Omne, especially with the Urgot ult being so strong in these like 1v1s or 2v1 situations. But now obviously with him dying and having no flash, you gotta be careful, because if you go for the tower dive as Wonder, there is a high chance you get counter ganked and you just die. Let's get a replay, effectively just highlighting what happens when you don't have any way to get out. This guy can flash point and click suppression.
A lot of point and clicks there. Very nice to have, of course, especially with the Zoe there to act as the follow-up CC, the Maokai ulti as well. And Officio, you talked about Splyce having a warm-up as a team, and they look a lot more comfortable than they did in their Game 1 yesterday. Perks, give me some of those perks, rather, G2, give me some of those Game 1 vibes that we got yesterday, where both teams seem a little hesitant, where they know that the pressure is on and they don't want to go for any crazy plays yet, and they're kind of just testing limits.
Oh, I'm getting it now. I wanted that top lane play.
Going over Unstoppable, going to try to clear Odo Omne out. Unlikely they have enough damage to do anything else other than push out, but it does mean that a wave is going to get denied to the tower, and Wonder will get to proxy.
Exactly, just trying to deny Odo Omne once again. Keep him down on the Maokai. Xerxes, his ulti is ready very soon in case he wants to go bot lane and kill Wadid. It is an option now that he knows the perks were showing topside. Might also just secure the Drake instead. Splyce needs to make sure they're always getting something when the top lane is getting denied another wave. And now we get that play on bottom lane. Xerxes will be spotted, however.
Now they're pulling back.
Oh,
Here's the play in mid lane. Jankos going back. He sees exactly where Niski's going to be. The cleanse comes out. Tries to buy a bit of time. Pulls him back together. Unstoppable. Nice! He all but dead, but he's stolen a flash, and he's going to try to make it out. Perks one more. Otto gets him down.
Man, I'm telling you, Zach is so good on stage because you will not get punished hard enough in the early game. Jankos got to level 7 on his side. Yeah, he lost the river. Doesn't matter because he gets enough farm. And then you start seeing the insane ganks you can do as a Zach, especially in the mid lane. They get a kill onto Perks. They force both summoners from Niski. Jankos is not done yet. He's instantly moving top lane.
Xerxes has ult, but he's nowhere nearby. Clearing Raptors. Can look to head up top side. He does have the Predator available. Looks like Wonder just trying to bait a little bit, but I think the aggressive trade is just going to reveal his hand here. Still pulls Odo Omne back. Interesting interaction.
Get a flash maybe?
CC. Can't commit for anything else. Can stay and help him push out, but I feel like every time we see a Zach in a bush, we know he can engage from like 1,400, 1,500 range away, and we just have to assume that any trade is going to turn into a gank at a moment's notice.
And I think also right there, Wonder did make it very clear what was about to happen. If you start randomly charging through 6 minions into the enemy top laner, there's a high chance the jungler is here, but now he's back mid lane. Niski, you have no summoners.
Looking for the engage, gets the combo, the charm, the knockup. Oh, man! This man can't even push any buttons. Give him a break, G2.
I like this play here. What did on the Rakan? Finally, he's back on a playmaker. And we have Jankos just ganking mid lane twice now.
And if you were a G2 fan, for a few minutes there, Xerxes getting the early ganks, a little bit of a sloppy TP, you were worried. But now, G2 starting to come into their own, looking a little bit more comfortable, making these plays happen now that Wadid is level 6. And just got to appreciate how clean some of this is.
This is the first gank Jankos gets in. I think Niski, the only way for him to survive is flash initially when he sees the Zac fly at him, but he might still go down because you can always pull him back to a minion if you land a Q from the Zac. And now we get the follow-up, which, to be fair, is a bit more Wadid than Jankos, but the narrative is Jankos right now.
Yeah, that did not look like he got to push a button.
He did not.
Fun, interactive, Rakan into Zac.
And you have no flash. They have long-range engage. Yeah. They're using it in mid lane around the star player. So far, G2 Esports looking better than, let's say, all 3 games in the quarterfinal.
And let's be honest, when we look at G2 being really successful, this is kind of what we thought might be the mold with Tahm Kench falling out of the meta, which is leaving Hjartan on his own, letting it be that reliable carry that can just sit in the bottom lane, freeing up Rakan to go mid, having G2 play around that top side, or in this case, the mid lane, and things look good right now for the G2 lineup. It's only a 1k gold lead, though, and Splyce are taking back some of these objectives, but it is a solid start for the G2 team. And
it is important to highlight that yesterday, even if Splyce were fall behind a little bit, they had Varus for Wonder, for Copy and most of them. On one item, he could actually start dealing pretty serious damage. You could play around him. It's not really the case on Xayah. Like, it is more of the standard 3-item crit 80 carry for you really want to try and be the one the team relies on. And Zoe's early game has been nerfed so many times. Like, she also desperately needs some items on her side before the damage really starts kicking in. So this Splyce comp is extremely slow. Like, everything is just screaming, we need to scale here.
And it's difficult, too, because you look at the one-item spikes that can come in from the side of G2. You've got the Black Cleaver for Urgot, which is a huge damage spike, almost impossible to get away from that champion. Trinity Force for Corki is the classic power spike meme. And, of course, Ezreal, one or two items, is going to be very strong. But now Xerxes on the bottom side, just using that pressure to look at this tower.
But this, I've mentioned this a few times already. Like, Xerxes around the bot side to kill Wadid is really, really easy. If Kasing just Q-flash him, and you get the follow-up from Xerxes, he's dead, and you can probably take the turret. So I like to focus on bottom side. You kind of abandon Odamne. Just let him sit on his own, let him lose whatever waves he needs, and get this bot lane turret down, get the Stormrazor on Kobe, and you still have something.
Perks is coming down, though. He does have the package. If Splyce overcommit here, there is no way Nisk can get here in time. Package, they want to pull it back. Unstoppable now as he leaps in just to clear the wave, just to deny this tower, forcing the ultimate out from Kobe. Now pulled back. None of the feathers connect either, but G2, they've given up so many resources to try to stop this, but Xerxes now just gets to walk mid lane, potentially can threaten Jankos.
Yeah, you're still going to lose the turret here. I think he realized Jankos wasn't with him, so he couldn't actually go for an aggressive play. Jankos, he's still mid.
Pulling back. It's going to be a sleepy Zac. Is going to use the ulti.
Oh, the timing there.
Now pulls away. He was just trying to disrupt, trying to keep the wave clear, but the tower's still going to drop. Tower first blood for Splyce, and evening up the gold difference that G2 managed to build up earlier.
Yeah, right there, I would have loved to see Jankos actually follow Perks to the bottom side if they were going to do something with the package and not just kill the one wave, because otherwise Splyce would just get the turret on the next wave. But I guess, if you ever wonder how it feels like, you know, getting camped in the mid lane, if the enemy jungler is ganking you even without his mid laner being there, you're truly getting camped. Like, he actually jumped in without...
The good news for Niski right now is it's a Zac, and he does almost 0 damage. A lot of CC, definitely feels menacing, but, you know, it's in the back of his head every time that Zac leaps in. Is there someone else here to actually do damage? Do I need to be scared? It's good on Jankos. Keeping him spooked. Now, Rimchild proc there, but just going to be aggroed into nothing, and Odoamne actually doing a good job of controlling the top side, losing out in CS, but keeping up the pressure. As Wonder does finally go Wadid forced now to check this Herald. Doesn't want to give it away for free.
Yeah, swapping at least. Let's see what Jan decides to do. He's in base at the moment. Can just go top side and they can just swap the whole thing around. But Kobe right now strong. You know, Stormrazor on his side. Can actually make a play around it. Consistent DPS is not really there. That first hit feels good, man.
It's a heck of a lot better than the static shift BF sword days. Definitely a very strong first item for AD carries. The ideal one at this point gives you a little bit of everything. Is it enough for them to get a greater advantage here? You can see Splyce bottom lane hiding in the bush, hoping to catch someone off guard.
Yeah, I really need to see Xerxes with the flash ulti. It's actually been up for quite some time for him right now, but he did secure the bot lane turret by just kind of hovering around. I think right now you really have the tools to create that one kill that gives you another turret into Rifthold on top side. I don't think doing something bot lane makes a lot of sense for Splyce. It's too risky against this Urgot with Black Cleaver. So I really need to see Skarner after he kills the bot lane camps, move up there and make a play around the Stormrazor AD carry.
Splyce have been trading blow for blow thus far, but I really like the way G2 and Perks are setting up this mid lane. The Trinity Force just lets him cut through that tower. Niski has to be careful. If he leaves the lane one more time, they will lose mid lane for pretty much nothing in exchange.
Our friend Jankos is around mid. All I asked for when I saw this G2 lineup get introduced a year ago was Jankos and Perks play around mid. Just like perma-gank mid lane.
We thought it had to be the best jungle mid duo. On paper, it should have been the best jungle mid duo, and they've been struggling. But this game, they are making a better case. See if Jankos does want to push forward. It's just going to be the mid lane tower for now. Splyce, I think, knowing that they're the weaker team, at least for right now, and not looking to commit to any of these larger fights.
They know they're weaker in mid, but top is where they're trying to do stuff. Kasing will take a bit of damage on the way out. Kobe did get some damage on top lane turret as well. And Splyce are trying to get control on the top side, but I didn't see the entire team actually really commit to anything there. And because they're already losing mid so hard, they couldn't really defend. We're actually starting this rift with everyone on top side already. G2's around. Jankos can just engage. He's Zac.
I think they're trying to bait the fight. They have the Alistar, they have the Skarner. Niski can, in theory, just delete. Someone did just lose the Exhaust, though. A bit awkward. Jankos is going to go in right in the middle of the team. Is going to try to knock him back. Unstoppable, though, as he pulls back. Wants to get out to safety. Niski now going in. Knockup is going to be interrupted. Beautiful stop by Odoamne there to keep Wadid out of the backside. And Perks struggling to throw out any damage. Jankos just going down. Well played by Splyce.
Oh, Wonder didn't have teleport on his side, so he couldn't actually join the fight instantly. That's why G2 were hesitating. That's also why Splyce could start this Rift Herald here. They were confident in the potential 5 versus 4. They get the objective. They kill Jankos as well. Big win here for Splyce, especially because they're still getting damage on this top lane turret. Feels like G2 are trying to get a lot of stuff happening around mid, but this one fight, because Wonder actually couldn't go TP, he couldn't join.
want to see it one more time just to see how Ottawamna impacted that fight, because I couldn't tell if it was a twisted advance or just the ultimate that stopped the Rakan from doing anything. We can take a look at it here, but you see Wadid wants Niski in this fight.
Yeah, look at the bottom lane here. You can see Urgot needs to walk all the way. So when Jankos jumps in, instant TP comes in from the Maokai, and now it's 5 versus 4, and Wadid is not getting in. He actually got rooted by the ulti of Ottawamna, it looked like, and right after, Ottawamna managed to lock him down in place. Just when he flashed forward. Unlucky timing for Wadid, but Ottawamna making an impact on the Maokai.
And good confidence coming in from the Splyce lineup to just go all in on that play. And G2, you can see a scattered call. Jankos goes in, he goes, guys, let's go. And everyone else is standing behind that TP saying, we're not so sure about this anymore. Maybe it's time to back it up.
Yeah, just a great call from Splyce, knowing Ottawamna could TP in so early. Not sure if Jankos thought that maybe Wonder could have joined quickly for that play. Copy's getting a free top lane turret right now.
For Niski, Jankos backing off, just threatening. Another tower does go down. Gold just continues to be even. CS advantages in top lane, really keeping G2 even thus far, but otherwise Splyce seem to be doing quite well.
I guess the jungle proximity for Jankos around mid is like 50% this game. He's really been in no other lanes.
I want to warn you that they can track that stat and that they will show a number that's not 50% momentarily.
Just show 50%. The viewers have no way of actually checking if it's true or not.
That's true, but I was just told it was 12.7.
Close to 50%.
Regardless, Splyce now taking control of the mid lane where Jankos spent half of his time, if that's what you think 12.7 means.
Yes.
And then Herald's just going to continue to charge. Division, what are G2 doing? This is 2 towers
sleeping,
down.
man. They're trying to get a Drake at the moment.
Once again, you talk about a warm-up yesterday. Rift Herald is going to get a charge, it looks like, on the inhib tower as well. G2 so confident in a few of those early game plays, but it's time to wake up. You cannot be giving up 2 mid lane towers like that. Still the gold, though, just about dead even, but Splyce should have absolute control of the mid lane.
Yeah, so the last 2 minutes, Splyce, get the Rift Herald, kill Jankos, get the top lane turret, put the Rift Herald mid, get 2 turrets in the mid lane, and all they lost was on bottom side a turret and a Drake.
Where is this gold coming from? Oh, it's Klepto. Ezreal Klepto is helping him stay up with Kabe, despite the kill difference, as well as the Cole. But that's only, it's not even enough.
Cole, no, there's nothing right there. It's just
300.
I mean, you see a farm difference top lane. You see a small farm difference as well in mid and bot lane. So there is some extra gold for G2, but Splyce getting 4 turrets down when we were just talking about how, with especially the Zoe in mid, like you need time now before you can really start one-shotting people. You'd already gotten ganked like 3 times by Jankos, and yet on the side lanes, they're just outplaying G2 right now.
Good news is there's the 2-item spike for Hjarnan. Crucial point for Ezreal. Basically stronger than any other carry in the game at this point. Outside of a few, of course. But on base items alone is going to be looking very good. It will go downhill from here for the Ezreal. So trying to use that as best he can to pressure out top lane, but no vision and no tier 1 tower means he has to be careful about how far he pushes up. Xerxes and Kasing looking for that kill if they overstep, and Ottawamna is here as well.
Exactly, and Copy can go back soon and get a BF sword. They're actually starting Baron. 20 minutes. The confidence from Splyce in this game is insane. G2, they are around, they're checking. Wonder is still bot side right now.
You're fighting against a very strong Ezreal. You're fighting right into this Ezreal power spike. This is incredibly risky from Splyce, but G2 need to find a setup to stop this from happening.
Jankos, can he actually get in range? Kasing wants to get him out.
Kasing just wants to stop this from happening. Unstoppable. He can't try to get into the pick. 2K and dropping. Who's going to get the Baron? Where's it going to go? 1,400 health and dropping. The fight continues to happen. Oh, he is going to get taken down in the end. Xerxes manages to get it away. Splyce on the retreat. Ottawamna is going to be able to make it out. Flashed over the wall. Blast cone to safety for style points.
Ooh, get it.
Oh, it tickled him. He felt the wind on his back, but no, Splyce take everything.
Yeah, second time now Splyce get a big objective top lane because Wonder can't actually do anything. He's walking from the bottom lane to get there. Splyce is normally such a slow team. We don't see them gamble on these calls around objectives. Yet twice now they felt so confident because Wonder couldn't join instantly that they could actually start it. Rift Herald first, now the Baron. And they knew, worst case, you get a 5 versus 4 team fight.
And Deficio, I mean, there's so... If I look at G2's composition before this Baron fight, I think there's no way that Splyce can do this comfortably, but they're just so confident.
Yeah, they're so confident. And again, look at the minimap. Wonder is walking, Kasing is trying to deny Jankos from getting in range, plus the Maokai ulti and the scanner as well. It's part of just pulling him away from the Baron itself. He cannot get in range in time, and Baron goes down. Xerxes gets it with the smite. All of Splyce get out as well. Wonder, yeah, that's about as useful as you've been so far. tried to land an ulti, but you didn't hit it.
Limited by range, not accuracy there. It was on point, Officio, but now for G2, suddenly they find themselves with their backs against the wall. Despite Splyce taking more objectives, they've been very even in gold up until this point.
Yeah, and compare Game 1 Splyce today to Game 1 Splyce yesterday. Like, it's a completely different team. Everything went wrong for them in that first game. Nothing connected, skill shots, whatever calls, it was all off. But this game here, Cersei's done well in the early game. Kobe, of course, has been getting all the early turrets on his side. But it's not been about individual outplays, it's just as a team, they're making great calls top lane. And G2 are not able to react in time, even though they're trying to fight it.
And when we saw this kind of shift with Schalke between their quarterfinal and the semifinal series, it was a week apart. But here with Splyce, it's a day, Officio. Yesterday, they were struggling. There were a few issues here and there. And today, they just look so confident and coordinated as a unit. Not giving up a whole lot. We'll have to see what Jankos could do. The engage is interrupted by the Alistar. Kasing is not having any of this. Cersei just waiting like a predator in the wings, looking for that opportunity to go in to pick someone off.
Yeah, main damage dealer is going to be Perks here. 2 items on the Corki, but he's holding mid at the moment, so they can't really fight properly on bottom side. And Kasing will just keep trying to deny Jankos from getting in. Big wave top lane, so we might get a reset from Splyce. G2 seems to stall now. Do you lose an early Baron? Not the end of the world, as long as you don't lose all your last outer turrets or an early inhib. And in this case here, they didn't actually lose anything.
Kavi's running. I don't think he's going to be able to stop this one from clearing it out. No, caster minions re-aggro.
Mechanics, baby.
Hard trolled by the minions. Oh, G2. Can't catch a break there on the top side of the map, but all is not lost yet. We do have a 1.3k gold lead. It's not massively significant at this stage in the game, and Baron buff is fading away. Splyce haven't really gotten to any greater advantages with it. They were at 4 towers. They remain at 4 towers. So while they did get it, while they did sneak it early, they're not strong enough to just start diving G2 or really pressuring out these objectives.
And they're looking for more here. Flash not available for Cersei, so main engage most likely will be Oramna or Kasing on their side. I feel like G2 with this Urgot pick, not gotten what they wanted. They won top lane in terms of farm, yes. Didn't really get any kills or early turrets down. Then it was supposed to be Wunder pushing bot side, and then he would walk first to the mid lane, and G2 would make a play around mid and force Oramna to TP in defensively. But that never happened because Splyce had the winning top side and just forced objectives all the time when Wunder wasn't there and wasn't ready to TP in. So great calls around it, and I guess overall with the spellbook, we never really got the swap.
No, haven't really seen it thus far, and it makes you wonder as the series progresses. We saw a lot of bans thrown towards the Splyce bottom lane, not wanting to give Morgana or Braum a lot of these more defensive options over to Kasing, but the Alistar's working just fine. Maybe the Skarner has to be the ban in games to come. 25 minutes in, not a significant lead, but G2 now going to try to get an Ocean Drake, still trying to collect a lot of these small advantages, and while Splyce definitely have the lead here, G2 are not someone that can be slept on.
Exactly, and I think scaling-wise, there's a lot actually on both sides. Corki is one of the strongest late game mid laners you can get, and you have a Zac as your front line on their side. But if you look at Splyce, you have 3 tanks plus 2 carries. Like that is normally the kind of late game setup you want. Ooh, Jankos back to camping mid.
Ooh, Cersei gonna go in, he wants to grab Perks, he's gonna pull him right back. There's a lot of CC here, the QSS might not be enough to flash back to safety. Can they turn this one? They have so many members, but they're all penned in this funnel. Just gonna back off now. Sleepy Trouble Bubble does not connect. Splyce dictating the pace there, forcing so many summoners as well as the QSS out for Perks.
Yeah.
This man has cleansed QSS.
I mean, he needs it right now. It actually made him stay alive. Sadly for him, if you look at the flashes on the side of Splyce, all 5 available. They were on cooldown when this fight started. So now you can get flash engage from Oramna, you can get flash engage from Kasing onto this Corki here with no flash. So he needs to be very, very careful. All of G2 are pushed back. Splyce controlling this game here.
And right now, Splyce are threatening those picks to Officio. But the other thing I have to point out is the 80 carry on the bottom side. Kabe, we said this isn't the Varus, this isn't the 1-item carry. You said he's the 3-item carry. He has those 3 items now.
Oh yeah. Kabe's happy right now. Perks, not sure what he needs.
Are we running every G2 trash talk or confidence tweet back to back?
I mean, I gotta say with this tweet here, for G2 Esports, in the past, Worlds or international tournaments and vacation used to be the same thing, so I guess it doesn't really matter for him in the end.
Is this the time? Is this the time when they're
losing and they're down already?
Yeah.
I ruined it a little bit by saying Worlds first, we're just going straight to international.
Yeah, that's fine. Kick them when they're down, that's the Officio mantra.
Hey, I mean, if you're tweeting that you don't actually care if you get to Worlds or Holiday, I think you deserve it.
Of course, we'll assume that he's playing. Only
Of course
a 2K
he's joking.
deficit, so they're not that far down, no matter how hard you want to kick them. Deficio?
It's perks. Assume everything he says is banter.
I would assume so, too. And the good news for them is they have a second tier stacking up for Hjarnan. Perks is just going to continue to get more and more terrifying, as Infinity Edge is probably the next item he looks to go for, unless there is another form of cleanse that he can purchase from the store. Reasonably sure there isn't one, so I think we should be fine.
Well, he could go Hourglass and a Stopwatch. So when he's about to get you, you Hourglass and then you Stopwatch right after.
5 seconds. You can't touch me. I can't touch you, but you can't touch me.
Exactly.
That's what's important.
Okay, so Baron is alive. Every time one of the objectives on top side has been alive, Splyce have gotten a big lead. Let's see if they can actually start another Baron on their side. Perks.
Playing really confident for a man who has no summoner spells. Yeah.
He has the package on his side right now, but it's going to run out.
If they want to use it aggressively, it's very high risk. Very likely to sacrifice Perks' life for that, so they're just going to back off. Ocean Drake will help keep him healthy if they do want to contest this Baron, but...
I mean, Splyce is just straight at it. Like, I've not seen this team be so confident around Barons all year long. It's actually crazy how much they've changed.
Ulti. This could be the fight that decides the game, though. 6K, they're going to back off the Baron. They're not giving G2 the chance to find a fight.
Hey, Wonder got a TP off.
Throwing a lot of damage down. Wonder might regret that TP. Now going deeper into enemy territory. We'll throw down the slow.
Well, this is what obviously G2 were hoping for earlier in the game when Baron got started. Wonder could TP in and force Splyce away, but then they didn't get the fight this time. Jankos was not in position to instantly engage with Wadid, so Wonder ends up TPing to stop a Baron, and now he might just return to the bottom lane and Splyce can try again.
That's the thing we have to remember, is that this is probably what Splyce were okay. They say either we get the Baron or we get the TP from Wonder,
exactly.
And either way we walk away. So you said Splyce haven't seen this level of confidence and also the patience coming into them to know that that was not their time to fully commit to the Baron.
Oh, look around mid though, Kabi.
Now going to try to pull back. Cersei is there, he wants to interrupt, but they're just going to pull him right back. That's so much CC. Kabi, the beautiful flash from the wall. Sing wants to keep it going.
Somebody to hit him.
Urgot ulti, not enough. Hjarnan goes over the wall, but he has no way to get out now. Gonna get pulled back. Odawamne is here, Kasing is there as well. Niski on the backside, they don't have a lot of damage here. They're fighting the final against G2, against the duo carries, but one of the carries is now down. Niski now running in. Sleepy Trouble Bubble will not connect. Tanky on the front line is Wonder, but that is all but meaningless now. Just gonna get cut down by the tank, slowly but surely, but it's more than enough.
Man, everything is just in favor of Splyce. Their AD carry got caught in the mid lane by 4 players on the side of G2, and they end up winning the fight right after because Kabi got to flash over the wall. He did not get low enough for the Urgot ult to actually kill him, and then all of G2 just chase into the jungle and get instantly destroyed by first Odamna and then the rest of Splyce. This normally is how you lose a fight if you're a Splyce, that your AD carry is forced to flash and ult defensively. Did not die. So close, but they can't actually hit him and get him low enough.
What? If you are a jungler and you're watching this, Cersei is the man you want to emulate. This man tried to body block every skill shot coming at his AD carry to make sure he didn't die, and now it's just easy for this team to clean up.
Yeah, because everything has just been used on trying to kill Kabi. Odamne is unkillable at this point when he jumps in. Perks, because he had to go QSS, is not sitting on 3 items yet. There's no IH on his side, and we're 30 minutes into the game because he needs defensive items. So the damage was just not there for G2 when the fight actually broke out.
4K gold lead now for Splyce. Their second Baron, but I feel like this is going to be different. This is going to be the one that lets them start to break open the base of G2. Now, Perks slowly but surely working his way to that Infinity Edge. Play to the Rune King also on the way for Ezreal. Wonder looking good as far as tanks go, but I just don't know if it's going to be enough when Zoe has the power to just immediately delete one of these carry threats in the fight to come.
Perks is close to his IH. He's sitting on 2,000 gold at the moment. Really wants that before the next fight because you gotta burn through Odamne, Cersei, and Kasing. 3 big tanks in the front. Unless Jankos can land an ult and actually pull back Niski or Kabi, but it is very hard to do as a Zac. You're mainly just trying to be as annoying as possible in the fight while your backline then kills the enemy front line. So your backline right now, they need more items. So I guess we just got Blade completed on Hjarnan, so that's something. Next time Perks will be able to recall, he actually gets the IH. That might just be the last fight for G2. He's even stealing an Ocean Drake.
Is important for both Corki and the Ezreal, so nice to have, but obviously not as ideal as Infernal at this stage of the game. And Deficio, I feel like Splyce has just continued to level up over the course of the games. Yesterday, they looked better and better across each game, and now here, they're looking incredible in game 1. It was slow at first. We were wondering what both sides was going to bring to the table, but Splyce with a lot of confidence in both execution and in draft. Not falling behind too much when Jankos was hard camping mid lane. You know?
Yeah. It's true. I mean, Niski died a couple of times, but their dual lane would take bot turret into top turret. Odamne, while he was actually denied a couple of waves in the early game, just played with his team. He walked to either join them or TP'd in to join them, while Wonder couldn't. And the team play ended up winning out. In this case here, Xerxes and the rest of Splyce. Can they get the last outer turret? I'm going to say yes. Pretty safe bet right here.
They have a minute and 25 seconds. I think G2, if this is where they want to pick a fight, I'd be a little surprised at this stage of the game, of course, with a 4-item Xayah. But now
Perkz
going to be
getting it.
A 3-item Perkz, 3.5, if you want to generously call the QSS that. Will be crucial. All it takes is for this tank line on the side of Splyce to make a mistake, to open up these carries. To either the Urgot.
Oh, that's the first hit. Perkz just returned. Get Copy down to, what, 55% HP. He's engaged.
To the back line, buying a little bit of time. All the CC has been burned on the tank. This is the time. Mickey trying to pull back in, but no, the Skarner saves the ulti to turn it back. Yanko's now running. Passive has been procced. G2 have to play beautifully here if they want to make it out of this scenario, because Splyce are just continuing to apply the pressure. Jankos has managed to live. Jankos has made it out to safety. Perkz now using the package to retreat, pulling back as Wonder trying desperately to stay alive, but one member has fallen. Splyce are turning the fight. Wonder all but dead, throwing out a desperation ultimate. Niski there to clean it up.
And Xerxes, the hero right here for Splyce. He sees the Rakan was about to jump his AD carry without flash, and he instantly ultis with it in the air, stops the engage from happening, and then Cobby and Niski stays alive, and they can actually turn the fight around and kill G2's front line.
Odawamne bringing it back, and it's just style points right now, folks. Cleaning up house. G2 was the CC of Splyce in the early game that led to those early picks. It's the CC of Splyce in the late game that denies the entry from G2, and a confident first win here coming out from the Splyce lineup. They took it to 5 games yesterday. They might just look for a 3-0 here.
I mean, different team today with the calls. Aggressive shot calling, looking at Wonder saying, can it TP, yes or no? If not, start the Baron. Worst case, we get a team fight, 5 versus 4. Jankos tried his best, honestly. He got early ganks off around mid lane. He got Perkz fed in the lane, but they couldn't deal with the 5 members of Splyce, just starting Rift Herald, then Baron, and then another Baron after. And I gotta say again with Skarner, we talked about how both jungle picks are like the best stage picks you can get, because they are just so good at also forcing the enemy team to play more passive. The Skarner itself, you know, you have to build QSS on the other side. Perkz delays his eye edge because he needs to get a QSS. Widid needs to build it as well, because otherwise when he jumps in, he gets ulted and he just dies. So he's so squishy. And you see in these fights, the moment he gets denied entrance by either the Alistar or the Skarner, he's useless. He can't do anything. And then you get this backline from Splyce that just stays alive.
Zoe just got to sit there and pop skill shots left and right. The second you try to go in at all, everything gets disrupted. And you have to credit Splyce for playing these fights so well, for holding on to key pieces of CC to deny any form of engage G2 could bring out. But if you're G2, what do you even change, right? Because your comp in theory was good. You just were not able to execute. Splyce just denied everything that you wanted to do.
I think, yeah, I mean, looking back at the game, you're going to talk about, again, the key objectives on top side and say, what could we have done different here? Normally, when a team at 20 minutes starts a Baron, you can stop them with 4 members. But because of all the tanks, no one dropped low. So G2 never felt like they could actually win the fight without Wonder there. It's a tough situation.
It is a tough situation, but we can stop speculating. We can ask the analyst desk what we think, or what they think, as we throw it over to Shocks.
Yeah, what do we think?
Excuse me? Hello. Thank you very much, Drakos. The word that I heard here amongst my analysts was methodical from the side of Splyce. Strategically on point, controlling the map, and in the end, controlling the game, which to me kind of shows the fact that they've played 5 games yesterday and they didn't come to play anymore today. They wanted to drive it home. So let's recap the keys to victory of Splyce and see what in the end they did. We'll do it for G2 as well. There was a lot having to do with the bottom lane, a strong 2v2, and then keep Odawamne on tanks. I think they fulfilled that, but to me it was Xerxes that was the most standout.
So I think in terms of keys to victory, they were aligned with what we had in mind, right? They drafted a Maokai, about as tanky as it gets up in the top lane, and they prioritized getting a Xayah, which denied the Xayah Rakan away from G2, but also they got the Alistar. So they were sure to have a winning 2v2 matchup, and then because G2 picked the Ezreal, they pretty much had the building blocks to have a winning lane on one side, and then Odawamne being able to provide that utility that we saw from him yesterday.
Yeah, I don't know. I was very disappointed in G2 because I was having way more expectations, but they felt really bland. They pick double team fighting with Corki Ezreal, but they pick it into a Maokai, and then you have a Xayah who's really strong in those team fights as well. And it really felt like a test of numbers, where the more tankier and the more DPS wins, because G2 is not playing over side lanes, it's not doing any kind of aggressive plays deep into the enemy jungle. They were just playing basically Splyce's style, and Splyce is like, that's what we draft for. We don't see champions like Trundle or Braum or Taric. I mean, it's just an example, but for like heavy team fighting, you know?
Well, I will say that when we looked at G2 before the game, we said, well, we want them to play around mid. The jungle mid must be on point. And I think Zach and Corki do that job very well. And we saw in the beginning of the game that they definitely focused their attention on the mid lane. So for that, I would like to give them credit.
Oh, yeah, but it's a Zach and Corki. It's not like a LeBlanc and, I don't know, like something more into the enemy's face where they push the advantage. Because what's your lookout here for what you want to do in mid game?
Yeah, but my point is that mid...
This was fantastic.
Kind of what they have to do, yeah.
That's true, but then I'm saying I think this is a lot about pick and ban right now. I think League of Legends generally right now, if you don't have a clear plan that you're executing, you're playing towards the enemy plan, and that you just got
to play devil's advocate, before we said G2 needs a strong engage support for Wadid and needs to play around mid. So can't blame them for doing that. I think what they do deserve a bit more blame for, and is maybe what you're alluding to, is the fact that they didn't seem to have a plan after. Splyce, on the other hand, they knew how to exactly play the map and get their advantages, even with getting killed twice in mid.
And I think the pick and ban, I think the champions that they had, playing for the 5v5, it was still executable, but Splyce was just so much more comfortable with that. They had the Maokai who goes in with Aftershock having like, I don't know, 200 armor and magic resistance, tanking up everybody. We saw it in the later fights as well. And there was just no counterplay, because the Ezreal and the Maokai really, the Ezreal and the Corki just take forever to kill this Maokai. And then you have all the backup and the follow-up DPS coming in. And really that's what we saw all the time. I didn't see the stand-up play. Even after the early snowball, I don't think giving the team comp that was like enough to put G2 over the edge, and that's what we saw.
Disappointed from you is the impression I get, and I do want to be positive about Splyce.
Oh, yeah.
Much better game one from them than we saw yesterday, Verius, and it was very interesting to me that on the objective front, even though the gold was even, they got that Rift Herald, they pushed 2 towers immediately, they got the Baron at minute 20, something of a proactiveness we usually do not associate with Splyce.
Yeah, for me, I felt like Splyce played this overall extremely well, in the sense that they were willing to try and force a lot of plays very early on. They had the winning bot side of the map where Xayah completed her first item very quickly, and then they used that to force the Rift Herald. They knew if they grouped up, they could just take advantage of the fact that Odo didn't have teleport, Urgot didn't have teleport, and then they could look to force the play, and then this was a 21-minute Baron. Regular season Splyce never would have done this. They would have been way more patient, way more calculated, but no, they felt they were stronger. Urgot, again, wasn't in the fight, and they just said, let's do it. All 5 members had to flash out of the pit, so definitely wasn't the cleanest Baron, but the fact that they were willing to make that play, the fact that they were able to pull it off, and the execution was clean, this is great play from Splyce.
Sheepy, from a coach perspective, how impressive is it that a team like Splyce, who the whole split and maybe the whole year has played for late game and has never really been that proactive, especially with this Baron call, that they do it now in such an important series?
I honestly believe that's great signs, and also shows that they are very comfortable right now in what they are playing. Honestly, I think Splyce went into this game after the pick and ban and was already thinking about what to do in the 20 to 30 minute mark. I think the Rift Herald that's been used in mid lane to get 2 turrets were super key for them to get like so much gold in the in the pocket that they can actually get to this point. And yeah, I think even with the Nashor, you saw everybody had their roles. Alistar was perfectly zoning. Maokai was looking afterwards for the tank up, and then they were just finishing the Nashor. So yeah, really impressive stuff on Splyce, and I'm looking forward to game 2 from them.
A night and day difference with the Alistar we saw yesterday from Mickey X, that because the team wasn't behind them, those plays didn't succeed. I just mean that to illustrate the fact that now Splyce was completely on the same page when they forced those fights. And I want to take a look at some of those fights. It became dicey. You always know that a fight like this can turn, and for me, G2 has the upper hand. They have the engage, but once again, Splyce play it to perfect.
So, I mean, the reality is Corby made a mistake here. He was overextended in mid, and G2 tried to punish. The problem for G2 is how they executed upon the following fight, because they hard committed to trying to kill Corby after burning his flash, with which Splyce were more than happy to turn around and punish. And the moment you funneled yourself into that choke point, it became very easy for Splyce to just tunnel in their damage and then win the fight. They turn that into a Baron, and then we see the next
and really look at the follow-up DPS. Look at Perks trying to do damage here. He's really getting like 2 or 3 auto attacks off, because first up he needs to build QSS against the Skarner, and then he is just not enough damage to kill the Maokai, the Alistar with ultimate, and the Skarner. And the Alistar is also Aftershock, so honestly playing this game from the carry perspective is so hard. Both Ezreal, Corki and Urgot to kill those 3 tanks and stay alive afterwards is almost an impossibility.
But I will say, like, I know you're hypercritical of how you think the draft played out, but I do think at the same time that when you have a Corki and you have Zach, you can invest resources into shutting down the Maokai early, especially with how hard Wonder was winning top side of the map. So I think that there was still ways for them to win that lane.
Oh yeah, absolutely. But into every pick and ban, you can go in and say, you know, this is winnable for the other side and whatnot. But you saw it like there firsthand that when Corki and Ezreal start auto-attacking the front line,
For sure.
it felt very frustrating because they just didn't have the shred. If you put a Trundle in there instead of a Zek, you know, try to peel off the front line, pick the Vayne, you know, do it cap style. You see triple front line, just go for that. You know, there's different styles to go for.
I think there's cases to be made for the draft and changes that they will have to make in the next one. But what for me I mostly took away from this one is that we talked about G2 not having played for a couple of weeks, the fact that they had to recalibrate, they had to be focused. They do not seem completely focused to me yet. The fact that they let that Rift Herald pound down 2 towers in the mid lane and then even almost get a charge out for the inhibitor turret, the fact that they let that Baron slip away is not something I usually identify with G2, but I will commend Splyce for doing it in this game 1.
Yeah, I do agree. I think that, to me, what this game symbolized was G2 made mistakes, but Splyce were very quick and very aware to punish. So I think that you need to give a lot of credit to Splyce because they played very well. But at the same time, like you highlighted it perfectly. Wonder was in a side lane twice when Rift Herald and Bannon was started, and he couldn't join the fight. And then G2 still went for the fight, even though they were in a 4 versus 5. Yeah. They just made a couple of questionable decisions, and Splyce played the fights well, and they were able to successfully turn this around.
Yeah, and what I felt is like G2 has a little bit of game 1 jitters, what we saw yesterday. I think Splyce really felt like, you know, warmed up, like very prepared for today. And I think G2 needs to come up with some new ideas for the next game. Honestly, I think also when they started the team fights, they need to be more on the same page. So, for example, in one of the team fights, Perkz is not even able to auto-attack, or they are engaging a little bit too early, or don't use the Ezreal poke, you know, then don't pick those champions and then pick rather something else. And also, props to Xerx. So yesterday he seemed the strongest when he was playing Skarner. Overall, Skarner, I think, right now has a super high win rate as well, because this champion just forces QSS from the DPS. And yeah, honestly, I think maybe that's also an idea to tackle it, maybe not to give Skarner to Xerxes.
I mean, it's what we saw in Madrid as well. Ban away the Skarner from Amazing, and it's a whole different story. A lot of question marks, and the alarm is not quite blaring for G2 yet, but they will have to win this next game to keep all hopes alive. They are fighting for the World Championship, and so is Splyce. And they are currently up 1-0. They have their eyes set on the 3rd seed. The fight for World continues right after this.
We haven't seen that Wonder. He has no flash. You called the Draco.